Imagine this. It's 2018, and the U.S. suddenly slaps massive tariffs on Chinese goods. Then Congress starts talking about revoking China's most favored nation status, a move that could shake the global economy. Most experts, analysts, and media voices said the same thing. China would buckle under the pressure. They expected factories to slow, exports to plummet, and the world's second-largest economy to wobble. But here's the twist. 7 years later, China didn't just survive. It adapted, evolved, and in some areas even started overtaking the U.S. Instead of collapsing under the sanctions, China doubled down on technology, supply chains, and domestic innovation. It's like a boxer who's been hit with a flurry of punches but keeps standing taller with every swing. This isn't just a story about trade, it's a battle for global industrial dominance. It's a fight over who will control the next generation of high-tech industries, from semiconductors to artificial intelligence, and from military aviation to critical infrastructure. Every tariff, every ban, and every media prediction of China's downfall has become part of a larger chess game, one where the pieces are factories, engineers, and supply chains. So, as we dive into this story, keep this in mind. What the world thought would break China ended up exposing weaknesses in the West instead. And the real battle? It's only getting started. Once the trade war heated up, it didn't stay just about tariffs on goods like steel or electronics. It escalated into a full-scale tech war, one that targeted the very heart of China's future, its high-tech industries. The U.S. blocked sales of premium chips, advanced lithography machines, and other crucial components needed to build semiconductors. The brains behind everything from smartphones to AI systems. Imagine cutting off a city's power grid and expecting the city to keep running. This was the same gamble against China. Western media quickly jumped on the story. Headlines predicted collapse. Analysts claimed China's tech sector would crumble, its firms would fail, and the country would fall behind in AI, 5G, and next-gen computing. It sounded convincing, until reality told a different story. Companies like Huawei, M.A.X.I, and DJI didn't just survive, they innovated. They found alternative suppliers, developed homegrown technology, and kept breaking barriers in chips, AI, and drone technology. China's tech ecosystem didn't stall, it accelerated. At the same time, cracks started appearing in the West's industrial armor. Supply chains were more fragile than people realized, and the reliance on foreign materials and talent began to look like a vulnerability rather than a strength. The West thought it had all the leverage, but in truth, its own industries were quietly exposed. In short, the tech war showed a surprising twist. While sanctions were meant to slow China down, they revealed just how resilient and adaptable the country had become, and how unprepared the West was for a long-term technological showdown. China didn't just absorb the hits, it struck back strategically. When the U.S. tried to block critical tech and materials, China responded with targeted measures of its own. Rare earth minerals, sensitive components, and materials essential to military and high-tech industries suddenly became harder, or even impossible, for U.S. companies to access. The impact hit hard on some of America's most prominent military-industrial giants. Boeing and Lockheed Martin, for example, rely heavily on complex global supply chains, including components and expertise from China. Suddenly, those chains were disrupted. Production slowed, costs rose, and unexpected bottlenecks appeared. Boeing's airplanes faced delays, multiple models were grounded, and accident rates spiked. Lockheed's fighter engines underperformed, failing to meet the numbers they had publicly promised. But the story goes deeper. This wasn't just retaliation, it was a calculated exposure of weakness. By controlling critical materials, China revealed how fragile certain U.S. industries had become after decades of outsourcing, offshoring, and reliance on external suppliers. Think of it like a high-stakes game of Jenga. The U.S. thought it had a stable tower, but China's countermeasures removed key blocks, and cracks began to appear. China wasn't merely defending itself. It was turning the West's assumptions against them, showing that in this global industrial chess match, the U.S. might not be as secure as it believed. The ripple effects of China's counterpunch hit the United States industrial base hard, and nowhere was it more visible than in Boeing and Lockheed Martin. These companies, once symbols of American engineering might, suddenly found themselves grappling with some serious production and reliability problems. Take Boeing, for example. Grounded aircraft, software glitches, and design flaws became a recurring nightmare. Factories struggled to keep up, accident rates spiked, and global customers started questioning the safety of United States-made planes. Imagine buying a car that's supposed to be top of the line, only to find the brakes sometimes fail and the engine stalls. This is what Boeing's troubles looked like in the aviation world. Lockheed faced its own storm. Its fighter engines, long celebrated in marketing materials, were revealed to underperform in real tests. The thrust-to-weight ratios it boasted publicly were exaggerated, and even repair and maintenance became a challenge. Production bottlenecks meant fewer planes were ready for deployment, directly affecting the United States military's readiness. The consequences weren't just technical, they were strategic. The United States military's technological edge, once assumed unshakable, began to erode. Supply chain vulnerabilities, talent shortages, and over-reliance on foreign parts exposed a larger systemic problem in United States manufacturing. In short, China's moves showed that the United States industrial machine, long considered a pillar of power, was fragile under pressure. This set the stage for the next chapter. While the United States struggled to keep its factories running smoothly, China was quietly accelerating its aviation capabilities. While U.S. giants stumbled, China quietly built momentum in aviation. From fifth-generation stealth fighters to sixth-generation experimental jets, China's aerospace industry didn't just keep pace, it started setting new benchmarks. Imagine a student who was once struggling in class suddenly mastering advanced physics problems before their classmates even finish the basics. That's what's happening in China's aviation sector. Take China's fighter jets, for example. New engines are hitting the performance targets that U.S. planes promised but often failed to deliver. Production rates are rising, with some aircraft being built at over 100 units a year, far outpacing the slow output of newer U.S. models. Even next-generation drones, both fixed-wing and rotor-based, are entering mass production with fully integrated domestic supply chains. China isn't just focusing on military planes. Regional jets like the ARJ-21 are already flying domestically and internationally, competing with Western aircraft in both cost and reliability. By investing in a robust, low-cost supply chain and leveraging its massive pool of skilled engineers, China is achieving what U.S. companies have struggled to maintain: speed, scale, and self-reliance. The contrast is striking. The U.S. faces rising costs, talent shortages, and supply chain bottlenecks, while China's aviation sector moves like a well-oiled machine. This isn't a temporary advantage, it's a strategic shift, signaling that China could soon rival or even surpass U.S. capabilities in both military and civilian aviation. China's rise in aviation sets the stage for the next chapter, how its civilian aircraft strategy is quietly reshaping global influence. China's aviation story isn't just about stealth fighters or high-tech drones. Behind the headlines, its civilian aviation sector is quietly becoming a global force, shaping trade, influence, and strategic partnerships. Take the ARJ-21 regional jet as an example. It's been flying domestically for years, tested in international markets, and is slowly building a reputation for reliability and affordability. These planes are more than machines. They're tools of influence, opening doors in Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, Africa, and even Russia. China isn't putting all its eggs in one basket. Its dual-track engine strategy, using both domestic and imported engines, ensures production keeps moving even if Western suppliers refuse cooperation. By producing its own engines, China achieves true self-reliance, cutting dependence on foreign technology that could be blocked in the next trade or tech confrontation. This strategy has a ripple effect. Countries that once relied on Boeing or Airbus are increasingly considering Chinese planes for cost, supply, and availability. At the same time, China's domestic demand provides a massive guaranteed market, allowing manufacturers to scale efficiently and improve quality faster than most Western competitors. The key takeaway: while Western media focuses on military headlines, China is building influence quietly through civilian aviation, establishing itself as a competitor that could soon match, or even surpass, U.S. and European capabilities. And this rising momentum naturally feeds back into its military aviation, creating a cycle of growth and global leverage. While China was building momentum, the U.S. struggled to find a clear strategy. Trump's trade policies, meant to revive America first, ended up sending mixed signals. Tariffs hit hard, but industrial reforms lagged. Budget cuts threatened R&D programs just as next-generation fighter jets, drones, and hypersonic systems were becoming critical. The result? U.S. manufacturers faced cash crunches, talent shortages, and supply chain chaos, problems that couldn't be fixed overnight. Even bold ideas like Elon Musk's push for mass-producing drones reveal deeper issues. The U.S. military wants to innovate, but it's trapped between legacy fighter programs, budget limitations, and slow bureaucratic processes. Meanwhile, China's long-term planning, massive investment in R&D, and fully integrated supply chains give it a clear path forward. All of this exposes a troubling reality. The U.S. isn't just losing a race in trade or tech. It's struggling to maintain industrial leadership while allies and partners start exploring alternatives. Europe's renewed fighter jet programs, partnerships in Asia, and interest from other regions show that the global balance is shifting. The U.S., once assumed to be the uncontested leader, now faces competitors who are methodically eroding its edge in technology, aviation, and military power. In short, chaotic policies, contradictory strategies, and underfunded initiatives have weakened U.S. industrial resilience, giving China a growing advantage. This sets the stage for the final section, how the global game is changing and what it means for the future. So, what does all of this mean? Over the past 7 years, we've seen a dramatic shift. A trade war that was supposed to break China instead revealed weaknesses in the U.S. industrial and military complex. China turned pressure into opportunity, building cutting-edge technology, expanding its aviation industry, and gaining influence through civilian and military aircraft exports. Meanwhile, the U.S. struggles with budget issues, supply chain problems, and rising competition from allies and rivals alike. The implications are clear. Global power is not just about military might or economic size. It's about resilience, strategy, and the ability to innovate under pressure. Europe's recent investments in fighter jet R&D show that other nations are sensing the shift and hedging their bets, while the U.S. risks losing its traditional technological and industrial edge. For viewers, the lesson is this: the balance of global power is fluid, high stakes, and shifting fast. Watching who can adapt, innovate, and maintain long-term industrial strength isn't just about economics. It's about the future of military and technological leadership worldwide. And the final takeaway? The world once bet against China. They expected it to stumble under tariffs, sanctions, and tech blockades. But today, it's the U.S. that faces serious challenges to catch up. The race isn't over, but the map of power has already started to change.